Hi, this video will compare three different market structures: the consumer surplus, the producer surplus, the total surplus, all these welfare measures. We'll look at them for the same problem, how we get different welfare calculations based on the type of market structure we are referring to. So the three different market structures include perfect competition, include a monopoly that charges a single price, and include a perfectly price discriminating monopolist. And we'll compare the different welfare measures across these three situations. So let's go ahead and hop on it. And here's our problem. We've got a downward sloping demand curve and a marginal cost that's constant, and a marginal revenue curve when we're referring to a single price monopolist. There's an MR curve that's twice as steep as the demand. So let's first start with, hey, if this were a competitive industry, what would be the price and what would be the quantity? Well, a competitive industry would, of course, set demand equal to supply. And where is that happening? Well, MC is the supply curve for the firm. And here's our demand. So here's our EC, or equilibrium in competitive markets. So that corresponds to an output of 2 and this very low, everyday low price of 25. So is there any consumer surplus? Well, yeah, there's a ton. It's all the area above this price and below the demand. So areas A, B, C are all consumer surplus areas for the competitive firm right here. Okay. All right. How about the producer surplus? Well, the producer surplus, recall, is the difference between MC and the price. Well, the MC is equal to 25. And that's equal to the price is 25. So they're the same. So there is no difference. That's why the producer surplus is 0. So this has welfare, which I've called total surplus or welfare. Total surplus, are these two added up? Well, ABC plus 0 is ABC. And where's the deadweight loss? Well, there is no deadweight loss because that last unit that's sold, the marginal cost, 25, just equals the marginal benefit, 25. So no deadweight loss. So hopefully you followed along and got the competitive market solution. Now let's talk about a monopoly. A monopoly that charges a single price. How do they maximize their profit? Where MR, yes, here's our MR now, that twice steep curve, equals marginal cost. So that's right here. That's where the action is, right there. So what are they going to produce? Go straight down. This one is the output for a monopolist. What's the price? Well, don't go left here yet from this dot. Go up to the demand curve right here. That's ES, single price equilibrium for a single price monopolist, and then hang your left. So this is the price that the monopolist, you can charge just one price, would charge. Is there any consumer surplus? Yes, it's smaller. It's just this area above this price of 400. Okay, area above that 400 price and below the demand curve. So it's this area A. That's our consumer surplus, single price monopolist. How about the producer surplus? We have some this time. It's the area below price, below 400, and above the MC curve of 25. So this area B is our single price monopoly producer surplus. Add them up, get your total surplus, A plus B. What about this area C? Well, that's our deadweight loss. Deadweight loss is this area here in gray, or C. That's what the monopolist loses out on, or society loses out on, by having a monopoly produce it rather than a competitive market. Competitive market, remember, no deadweight loss. Whereas we have this deadweight loss under a single price monopolist. Okay, so finally, let's talk about the monopoly. Let's talk about the monopoly being, again, a perfectly price discriminating monopolist. So what happens here? What's the price? Well, the price is, remember, it's a different price for everybody, has a different valuation. So all those different valuations are encompassed by the entire blue region on the demand curve all the way here to 25. That's where it stops. 25 is where it stops. So those are the different prices. So what's going to be the output? Well, all those different prices, and then finally that last consumer who values it at 25, they pay 25, the MC. So the output's going to be 2, the same output as in competitive equilibrium. But you have a range of different prices. So since every consumer is paying exactly their willingness to pay, there is no difference here. There is no gap between willingness to pay and the actual price because they are the same. That's why there's no consumer surplus. So what do we have then if we don't have a consumer surplus? Well, all this area above the red and below the demand curve will constitute producer surplus. Now the A, B, C goes all to the producer, whereas before it went all to the consumer in competitive markets. And perfectly price discrimination, all these surpluses go to the producer surplus. So what's total surplus? We'll just add them up. Well, 0 out of this is simply that same number. Deadweight loss? Well, here's the kicker. Under perfect price discrimination, this is the only monopoly that has no deadweight loss. Because we're producing all the way out here, that last unit that's produced, there's no gap between the MC curve and the price. So that's our summary then. If you follow that, then you have a good understanding of the 3 different market structures. If that was a bit rusty for you, take a look again at it or revisit the welfare. We had a whole module on welfare measures, consumer surplus, producer surplus. So take a look at those. But those are your 3 different market structures that we have talked about thus far in the course.